Congresswoman Bush, for your leadership in putting this letter together. I'm Sean Casten from the 6th District in Illinois. I have dedicated my life to climate change, first as a scientist and engineer, 16 years as an entrepreneur, and now as a member of Congress. And it is fitting and appropriate that we're having this conversation on the 52nd anniversary of Earth Day. That was an environmental movement started in 1970, would lead to the creation of the EPA. It would dramatically improve our lives. The smog-filled Los Angeles of my youth is no more. The burning rivers of Ohio are no more. The soot-encrusted buildings of Pittsburgh are no more. Those are all consigned to history. We've all been awakened to our role as stewards of what Carl Sagan referred to as this pale blue dot in the only home we've ever known. Now, in 1987, this Senate, awake to that reality, passed the Montreal Protocol 83-0. That was an agreement that agreed, tell me if this sounds weird, committed the United States to joining a global treaty to put a price on pollution, that we would all cap and trade to reduce pollution, and it worked. Reduced chlorofluorocarbons in the ozone hole that we were scared about ultraviolet radiation. The problem is largely solved. In 1990, this Senate built on that tradition with the amendments to the Clean Air Act. They passed that 87-11. That, among other things, included the acid rain trading program that took that international model we had to put a price on pollution, to create markets, to use that to lower, in this case, acid rain forming compounds. And the fears that I was told as a kid that the sugar maples of New England would be gone was addressed because we put a lot of controls on the back of coal plants in the Midwest. We reduced those acid rain forming compounds, and we are better as a result. Climate change was supposed to be next. And then the Senate went completely, this is a technical term, bonkers. In 1997, Bill Clinton didn't even bother bringing the Kyoto Protocol to the Senate because he knew he didn't have the votes. That was a global treaty to put a price on a pollutant and agree, much as the Montreal Protocol did, but this time for carbon dioxide. In 2009, the Senate lowered their ambition. We said, let's just do that domestically. Let's do that for the Waxman-Markey Act. Let's create a domestic trade market for CO2 emissions. In the words of Harry Reid, it's easy to count to 60 and we don't have the votes. The rest of the world simply takes for granted at this point that the Senate is incapable of action. The Paris Climate Accord, which it is fantastic that Obama signed us into it. It is shameful that Trump took us out of it, and I'm delighted that President Biden has brought us back in, but the structure of that agreement expressly does not require parliamentary consent because of the rest of the world assumed that if that happened, the United States would never join. That is shameful. The world, the planet, the pale blue dot works under the assumption that the United States Senate will not take the single existential crisis to our planet seriously. That is the reality we have to deal with right now. Meanwhile, the pollution continues. 50% of all the carbon dioxide we have ever emitted as a species, from the first caveman to build a wood fire, 50% of all that we've ever emitted as a species has come since 1985, the year Back to the Future was created. Roughly the year the Montreal Protocol was signed. Global temperatures have risen a half a degree during that time period. For context, they rose a half a degree in the 100 years prior to that point. It is getting hotter, and it is getting hotter faster. Sea levels have risen 3 inches in that period. On current trajectories, parts of Miami are going to be under 3 feet of water by 2070. We are closer to that day in the future than we are to the day in the past when we first created Earth Day. That is the reality we have to deal with this right now. Hundreds of billions of property loss from coastal flooding, from hurricanes, from derechos, from wildfires is now an annual event. Now the good news is I've got some polling data with me because we have the opportunity to fix this, and all we have to do is what Americans want. 100% of Americans do not want to lose their home. 100% of Americans believe that the laws of physics are non-negotiable. And 100% of Americans want to leave a better planet to their kids than the one that they inherited from their parents. And yet, for 3 decades, 100% of Americans have not been represented by a Senate that is willing to do the bidding of the majority of the American people. So it may be easy to count to 60, but this problem is hard, It is urgent. Let us now go do hard things. It's time to end the filibuster.